always thought betrayal would break me, that if the woman I married ever cheated, I'd crumble into pieces. But when I finally uncovered my wife's secret, I didn't fall apart. Instead, I planned something so devastating that not only did she lose me, her lover lost his marriage, his kids, his career, and even his home. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice. All I needed was patience and the truth. If you've ever wanted to see karma strike harder than a freight train, hit that like button right now. Subscribe for more stories where justice doesn't just arrive, it slams down with a smile. Because today's tale? It's not just about revenge. It's about reclaiming dignity when someone you trusted tried to bury it. The early 2000s. AOL was still king of email. Cell phones flipped open with a snap, not a swipe. And I thought I was living the quiet life of a suburban dad. 2 kids, 4 and 6. Old enough to ask questions, young enough to still believe their parents' word was gospel. My wife and I were in that grind of early parenthood. Tired, strapped for time, but united, or so I believed. But then the story started. From the kids. "Daddy, we went to Grandma's again today." "Oh yeah? What did you do there?" "We watched cartoons while Mommy went out." That shouldn't have raised alarms. Parents get busy. Grandparents help. That's normal. But her parents lived 90 minutes away. One way. And she was going there too, sometimes 3 times a week. That was hundreds of miles on her car for just a day trip. The math didn't add up. I asked her casually, trying to hide the suspicion boiling in my stomach. "Hey, YVE, you been driving to your parents so often?" She smiled. Too quickly. Too rehearsed. "Oh, you know, Mom misses the kids." But I knew my wife. She was many things. But a good liar? Not one of them. That night, when she went to bed, I crept into the garage. Her car sat there, quiet and cooling, but the odometer never lied. Week after week, I tracked the numbers. She was putting an extra 400 miles on it every 7 days. My gut twisted. My chest felt tight. I didn't have proof yet, but my instincts screamed the truth. She wasn't just visiting family. She was visiting someone else. And then fate, or maybe her carelessness, handed me the crack in the wall. One morning, I sat down at our clunky desktop computer. The monitor hummed, the tower fan whirred. And there it was, a sticky note by the keyboard. Her handwriting. Her AOL password. I stared at it. My heart pounded. My hands shook. I shouldn't. If I looked, there was no going back. But if I didn't, I'd never know. I typed it in. The inbox unfolded like a bomb. Emails between her and her old college best friend. Casual until they weren't. They joked about how she was getting her fix. How she was back with her high school ex. How his wife had let herself go after the kids. I felt sick. My wife, the mother of my children, laughing about destroying another family, mocking an innocent woman who trusted her husband. I hit print. Every page. Every email. I slid them into a folder and hid them away. Proof. Cold. Paper. Unforgiving. But proof wasn't enough. I needed the whole truth. I called a buddy of mine, a cop. He listened quietly, then said, "You need Ron." Ron was a former detective turned private investigator. And let me tell you, this man was worth every penny of his retainer. I handed him the emails, the mileage logs, everything I had. He nodded like a surgeon about to cut out a tumor. 2 weeks later, the report landed on my desk. Photos. Dates. Times. My wife's car parked outside a dingy motel. Her laughing over lunch with him before they checked in. The clockwork precision. Drop the kids at her parents', spend hours with her lover, pick them back up, drive home to me. I stared at the photos until my vision blurred. The betrayal wasn't abstract anymore. It was in black and white, grainy images that would haunt me forever. But in the wreckage of my marriage, a plan began to form. Ron dug deeper. The man's name? Bob. Married. 3 kids. Vice president of sales at his father-in-law's company. His wife's family business. So this wasn't just a cheater. This was a man betraying his wife, his children, his in-laws. The very people who gave him his career, his home, his life. And he was arrogant enough to think he'd never get caught. I didn't just want to end my marriage on my terms. I wanted Bob to feel the full weight of his choices. Step 1. I hired a divorce lawyer. No hesitation. No second chances. My parents had cheated on each other when I was a kid, and the fallout tore our family apart. I swore I'd never do that to my children. Step 2. I called Ron again. I need more copies of that report, and I need you to deliver one directly to Bob's wife. The day arrived. At 10 a.m., a courier walked into my wife's workplace and handed her divorce papers, right there in front of her colleagues. She called me an hour later, her voice shaking. "What is this?" "It's the truth," I said, and hung up. At 2 p.m., Ron knocked on Bob's wife's door. She opened it, confused, polite. Ron handed her the file. She flipped it open. Photos of her husband with mine. Motels. Restaurants. Times. Dates. According to Ron, she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just went still, like a fuse had been lit. That was her battle to fight. And oh, did she fight. The dominoes fell fast. Bob's wife emptied their joint accounts, moved the kids out, filed for divorce. When her father, the owner of the company Bob worked for, found out, Bob was fired on the spot. And the house, it wasn't even his. His in-laws owned it. Evicted. Gone. But it didn't stop there. Court documents later showed the divorce was a battlefield. Custody fights. Financial wars. At one point, Bob tried to confront his wife at the house. Her brother stepped in. One punch. Broken nose. Police called. Restraining orders filed. Bob spiraled. Criminal charges. A short stint in jail. And then silence. I checked years later. Nothing. No social media. No LinkedIn. No trace of Bob. It was as if he'd been erased. Meanwhile, his ex-wife thrived. She took over her father's business, raised her kids, and built a life without him. Karma had picked Bob up, wrung him dry, and tossed him into the gutter. As for me, the divorce went smoothly. My wife and I co-parented until the kids were grown, but I kept my distance. No bitterness. No love. Just neutrality. Now that my children are adults, I don't speak to her at all. She's just a name in my past, the mother of my kids. Nothing more. I don't hate her. I don't wish her harm. I simply don't care. Because in the end, I won. Not through shouting. Not through violence. But through patience, precision, and letting the truth do the work. Think about it. My wife lost me. Bob lost his wife, his kids, his career, his home, his freedom. And all I had to do was hand the truth to the people who deserved to see it. No schemes. No illegal moves. Just pure uncut reality. That's the thing about liars and cheaters. They build their castles on sand. All it takes is one wave, and everything collapses. Looking back, I realized this wasn't just about revenge. It was about refusing to carry the weight of someone else's betrayal. About standing tall and saying, "No, you don't get to break me." And maybe that's the real justice. The life I built after, while they drowned in the ruins of their own lies. If this story gave you goosebumps, smash that like button. And tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or dreamed of? I'd love to read your stories. And of course, subscribe if you want more tales where betrayal meets its brutal end. Because sometimes karma just needs a little push.